our government covered it up, and it's been that way ever since.
Mr. Tourney, I have a theory, and I would love to hear your thoughts. I have always believed, based on the timing of this incident, which was in the direct middle of the Six-Day War, that the intention was to create another Gulf of Tonkin incident and basically create another regional war, this case in the Middle East. And it didn't quite go according to plan. Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, it didn't go to plan for the one reason, Jesus Christ.
Mm.
You know, he was the only one to come help us that day. But it went on and on and on, just over and over. Napalm, rockets, cannons, machine guns, a torpedo that tore a 40 by 40-foot hole in the ship, blowing to bits 25 of my brothers. 9 killed were on the deck, 34 in total, and 174 wounded in a 2-hour bloodbath. We lowered over our life rafts. We only had 3 left. They shot the rest of them up or burned them up with the napalm they dropped on us. 3 left. We put them in the water to put our most seriously wounded in, and they shot them out of the water and took one aboard their boat in Haifa somewhere as a trophy of the kill.
What was your experience like that day? How it started? And I don't think too many people truly understand the whole origin of the USS Liberty and why it was in the Mediterranean Sea in the first place. Can you just explain briefly what that whole experience was like, why you were there in the first place?
Yes, we were on our way to Africa, and we ended up in Abidjan, Africa. That's our usually steaming up and down the west coast of Africa, about 4 or 5 knots, up and down, up and down. You would stop at certain ports, but this time was different. It's just as soon as we got to our port in Abidjan, we got orders to go to the Mediterranean, or actually it was Spain first, to pick up more men, linguists. And they got everybody aboard the ship as fast as they can. And I had been aboard that ship almost 2.5 years. I've never seen nothing like this happen before. I mean, it was unheard of. And then we went to Malta, picked up 3 linguists, and then 2 civilians who were linguists. By the way, 3 of those people were blown to bits by the torpedo explosion. And then we find out we're going into the 6-day war. The captain asked for a destroyer escort. So did Lieutenant Commander David Lewis. He asked for a destroyer escort. We're going into a war zone and we're all alone. Our government says, don't worry about it. You have American flag. You have the markings on the ship. U.S.S. Liberty's clearly about it, painted on your stern, and that flag up there is your shield.
That's what it was supposed to be. But as it turns out, on the afternoon of June 8th, 1967, approximately 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there was, or no, I believe it was, whatever time zone that would be, Tel Aviv time. There was an attack on your ship, and it appeared initially to have been a source of confusion. That is what the Israelis claimed, that they thought you were an Egyptian ship, I believe was the story that they gave. But it became pretty evident pretty quickly that there were obvious markings on the USS Liberty that this is supposed to be a friendly ship. And yet, not only did that not stop them, it seemed to incite them even worse. That's what I observed just by reading it, but you lived it. So could you take us through the whole process of trying to send distress signals to those that were attacking you? And not only was it being ignored, but it almost seemed to get them even more riled up to try to sink the ship.
Yes, I will. Actually, we got there on the 7th of June. It was a bright, beautiful, sunny day. The wind was blowing about 12 knots going across the the deck to keep a flag out furled. We had a brand new American flag there. Israeli aircraft reconned our ship over and over and over again, filming our ship. They dipped their wings. We'd wave at them. Everything was friendly. It was Israeli, our best friends in the whole wide world, we thought. And we had no problem. They did the same thing on the 8th of June, the day of the attack, over and over again, flying boxcar, DC-3 and smaller propeller planes, all marked with the Star of David. And at 2 o'clock, the attack started with unmarked jet aircraft, the Israeli Mystere and Mirage jets that pummeled us for 25 minutes solid with napalm, rockets, cannons, machine guns, everything they had. They knocked out all of our antenna. We couldn't send out a signal, but one guy, Terry Haldebardier, he has passed on now, received a Silver Star for hooking up a long wire to an antenna he had taken offline because it wasn't tuning. That's the only one they didn't hit. All those rockets and everything were going to those tuners. They were heat-seeking missiles. They knocked everything out within 3 seconds. We had no incommunicado, except we got that one message out. Rockstar under attack by unknown jet aircraft. Rockstar, need help, need help. Captain Tolley off the USS Saratoga immediately launched the aircraft. McNamara got online and says, do not help Liberty. Do not help Liberty. Go back to base. Go back to base. And he did. He went back to base. Then the USS America and the USS Saratoga, the captain on the America was Captain Engen and Captain Tully. They relaunched aircraft to come to our aid because they could hear us screaming for help and the rockets and everything hitting. And Johnson got on the phone and said, turn those GD aircraft around. I could care less about a few dead sailors. I will not embarrass my ally, Israel.
Can I just share one particular thought that I have always had when it comes to warfare? I would never in a million years take orders from somebody who did not serve themselves. I always feel that the commanders in chiefs throughout our history that I've always held in the highest regard, particularly Teddy Roosevelt and JFK, were men that served our country. And I always felt that their concern for the well-being of the American soldier was different in comparison to somebody like LBJ who did not serve. And that blatant disregard, I don't think can be ignored. We see it today. It really gets to me. Like it really does. My attitude has always been, don't ask somebody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. And it doesn't surprise me that you experienced what you did. And it hurts. It hurts me. And, I come from a family of veterans, and it just really, I can't imagine carrying the bearing of that weight for almost 60 years. And going back in time to relive it, which I'm sure you have to do all the time. It was a absolute slaughter. I believe it was 34 of your fellow veterans were killed that day. About 175 were seriously injured. And it seemed that, because granted, this is 1967, they were able to sweep this under the rug because not everybody had a cell phone and could capture all of this on camera. But I'm guessing that as bad as that day was, the aftermath ended up being even worse when you tried to get justice for what happened.
Oh boy. Yeah, that brings back a lot of memories. Once we finally got help, 17 hours after the attack, they took all the wounded off, and and there's a lot of seriously wounded. And that night, we were out there all alone, and Doc Kiefer was operating on people all night. He was shot in the stomach and both knees, and he was still going for it. I helped him in one operation from this guy by the name of Gary Blanchard. He got shot up bad, and he said, "Take my socks off, would you please?" And I rubbed his feet, trying to get him some circulation. Went over to his side. He says, "You think I'm make it?" I said, "No, man, I don't think you are." Doc Kiefer cut him open, and he had passed away. But that's how it was all night. And when they got everybody off the next day, the most seriously wounded, I know I went backwards a little bit, but I'm sorry, but with this story. But once they got all the people off, we were out of sea for about 2 days, and here comes Admiral Isaac Kidd with his JAG officer, Captain Ward Boston. And they got us in small groups, and we told them everything we could. I was in sick bay with probably 2, 3, 4 other guys. I can't remember. It's been almost 60 years, but at least that many. And he come in and took his stars off, and he threw them on the table. It was a stainless steel table, and it rang like a bell. He says, I want you guys to understand something. I'm just like your dad. I want you to tell me everything that happened." And we did. And I asked him, "Well, how come help never came to us? We were out there by ourselves. They shoot up our life rafts. I mean, they do everything to us, and help never comes to us." And then he put his stars back on. And he says, now I'm an admiral again. I'm going to tell every one of you SOBs, if you ever breathe a word about this to anybody, including your parents or anybody else, especially the media, I'll make sure you end up in prison or worse." And he says, "You know what worse means?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." So that's what they did to us. And it's been going on ever since. We got into port, into Malta. They made the ship brand new. They painted it, patched all the holes. And while we were there, the CTs were trapped down below, had been in dirty salt water, banged around for 7 days. All you could smell is death. And it sticks with me right now. It was that bad, and they had to put pieces back together to get him out of there.
Let me ask you, this is because it's bad enough to go through what you go through, and then you're threatened if you seek any sort of recourse or justice. How long did it take before people started speaking up to some extent? Because obviously we know about this. So obviously quiet was not kept for very long. And then what happened when it started to come out as to what happened?
That went about 17, 18 years after the attack. And there was an organization called the U.S.S. Liberty Veterans Organization. You can go there. Look at our website and everything. Just go to libertyveterans.org. But we got together, and we said we were all pissed off. And we decided, hey, we're going to try to do something about it. But we've written Congress, what about the war crimes? We filed a war crimes report, and they threw it in the toilet. They didn't even want to look at it. I mean, that's how bad it is. I was in the State Department one time when there was a symposium on the USS Liberty by Mark Susser. He was the coordinator there at that time. There was 3 Israeli Jews there, and one man by the name of James Bamford a good friend of my author, look him up. He's a great guy. And everything was against, him. But I and another survivor were in the audience, and Banford read this letter from the Ward Boston that said everything in the Board of Inquiry was a lie. Captain, Admiral Kidd and I both knew you were set up to sink by Israel, but by the grace of God, you lived. And, he said it was all a set up deal. They all lied, and nothing's ever come of it. Nothing, because of our bought and paid Zionist owned Israeli agents. I call them all that. I mean, all the money they take from AIPAC. Are you kidding me? This just didn't start yesterday, man. It started a long time ago. And if we don't stand up for each other as Americans and take our country back, we're not going to have a country like we used to know.
There is no question that you were not supposed to survive that day. That ship was supposed to go down, and they were supposed to use it, as I mentioned, as a Gulf and Tonkin Part 2, and it didn't happen. And to you and your brothers in arms that are still alive, we're doing everything we can with our platform to bring justice for you, for them, and to ultimately do what needed to be done back in 1967. The disintegration of this genocidal state and our attachment to it. And for better or worse, as Jen likes to say, we are Israel, they are us, at least from the State Department's perspective. From the perspective of the American people, this is the unifying issue of our time. And I hope you live long enough to see us do it, because it's very gut-wrenching to think that we believe in what we do, especially having served, in justice. It's cliche, truth, justice, in the American way. But at the same time, we know that this is not a just world. And the acts against humanity that this genocidal state has been committing, not just in the last 2 years, but what I believe has been not just our proxy, but effectively the red herring, if you will, in terms of what the entire State Department foreign policy has been since the Vietnam War. It's basically whatever this nation wants. And we have lost hundreds of thousands of our citizens, and we have killed millions of others on behalf of their ideology. And I want to see it come to an end.